Ashtavakragita, Chapter 1, Verse 4. Sage Ashtavakra answers, My dear child, if you detach yourself from the identification with the body and rest in and has consciousness, you will this very moment be happy, at peace and free from bondage. This is in continuation to Janaka's question of chapter 1, verse 1 on how can knowledge be acquired, how can liberation be attained, how detachment is possible. The sage answered that you are not the body which is composed of 5 elements. You are the witness of all these as pure consciousness in the previous verse. I have added the link to the playlist which comprises of all the verses in the description. We saw how sage helped us see how we have wrongly identified ourselves as an individual, and this wrong identification itself is bondage. Before going further, let's just reflect on what's happening here. The sage is saying all this to the king. And we very well know that king has a lot of responsibilities towards the kingdom, towards the people. And Janaka was a very efficient king who managed the kingdom really well. This is evident that Ashtavakragita or spirituality is not telling us to leave everything and run away. The king did not leave anything. Spirituality is the strength, the peace, the calmness, righteousness, and bliss in action. These verses are not just for Janaka. This is for us to lead our life righteously and blissfully. In verse 4, the sage is saying, in this very moment you are happy. In this very moment you are at peace and you are free of bondage. The sage is saying, in this very moment. Because if it's something material, then it would be in space and time. Like say, if I have to assemble a computer, if we have to build a building, it would take time, it would take space. And also if I have to demolish it, then also it would take time, right? All these actions are in nature, which is dependent on space and time. But the sage is talking about consciousness, the pure consciousness which is not dependent on anything. The sage says, if you detach yourself from the identification of the body and remain in and has consciousness, you are free. If we observe the words of the sage, he meant that if we stop wrongly identifying ourselves with the body, then we are free. Let's see why the sage is repeating this again and again. If we see in depth, the sage is highlighting that this bondage and suffering is the choice that we have made. And also it's a choice for you to be free now at this very moment. You are the pure consciousness, and no one can stop you of being this. This is where we would need Guru's help if the mind is not letting us see the truth. And there would be help needed in freeing us from this bondage. We have a lot of books, lot of videos from Ramana Maharshi, Anantaji, Acharya Prashantji, Jiddu Krishnamurti, who have been there to guide us. My pranamam and love to all the Gurus who has shown us this path. And this is the greatest gift. Once you know this, you will see everything as a witness. And only there is bliss. The bliss is not somewhere else or far away. It's right now, right here. This witnessing will detach you from wrong identification, and you remain rested in pure consciousness. Just like a sunlight is falling on some object, and you are not concerned. You just observe it from a distance. This distance is love. Love is letting nature do its work, and we are not looking for completion by involving ourselves in this phenomena. The sage is explaining all this because all of this in totality is consciousness. And if you think you are in bondage, then you have forgotten who you are, and you are stuck with false knowledge.